so.
What do you log in? Yeah, make sure it's your name or something. Okay. So chat should be up. I want to make sure it's completely up for sure.
Oh.
Yes, it's up. We're on. Hello, everybody.
We're live. We're live.
We're already on. They got to say anything crazy. Hello. Yeah, we're now recording. Welcome to, and just like that.
It has been that type of week that we're all, you know.
Yeah, we're all discombobulated. And I hear my voice. Okay, here we go. Okay. Chat room is up. So come if you want to come in, people come on in. The water's fine. My phone is off. That's there. And we're back. And so last week I almost set my house on fire. So I couldn't do anything. She was here, she was ready to go. I had to cancel last minute. So that's why we weren't here for episode 9. We're going to episode 9 and 10.
So cute last week too. I looked so cute and we didn't even do a show. I was so sad.
Yes. I was sad too. You did look nice. You look very nice. I was ready. I had my stuff set up. I literally 2 minutes before to come on. My alarm's going off. The police are coming. I was making yams of all things.
Did the police show up and they knocked on your door?
Yeah. That's why I couldn't do a show and them not. I don't want them busting in or things. I I don't know what's going on. My house smelled like smoke. It was crazy. So it was crazy. It was crazy. I don't know. I was making yams and the thing overspilled and I didn't whatever. So life was just kind of crazy that moment. Yes, but we're here. We're here talking about, and just like that, the season has ended. Got lots about on that episode too. But first, we got to cover episode 9 because it's called No Strings Attached, and that one got some hate also. It's funny, every episode's gotten their controversy, so maybe do something right, because all the controversy, I guess it happens. Okay, so episode 9. First, the ladies are having lunch. I love how Carrie and Miranda switch food. I wanted that. I've done it before.
I've done that all the time with where I'm like, oh man, I really just want those fries. Can I just eat fries? Instead of my salad.
Exactly. I totally have done it before. I'm like, that looks better than what I was going to get that, and I changed my mind, and now so I've done that also. Charlotte thinks she is done with. She's in menopause. Thinks her periods are over. So once again, we get later on in the episode, we get another Charlotte surprise kind of episode.
I feel like the last 2 episodes were very Charlotte centric.
Yes.
It was very interesting. I was like, oh, okay. It felt like Charlotte was more of the main character than anyone.
Because I think the first few episodes, we didn't see, there wasn't much of Charlotte. It was mostly right out the gate, Carrie, of course, yeah. But then Miranda got a bunch of stuff.
That's true. So I think it kind of came in waves.
But I have to mention, because we didn't talk about this last week, and I mentioned on the show before, have you seen all the memes and things going around about Harry and his thingy?
Yes. How can you not avoid it?
And I said on the show, I'm like, wow. Now everybody caught it. So I had to laugh.
I mean, it caught fire for sure. Like your house.
Yeah, exactly. Because of that, my house caught on fire. Exactly. But so she thinks she's hitting menopause. Anyway, Lizette comes down. So we see her again. And we know she's a jewelry designer. That's why she's there. And she made something for Carrie. And she gives it to her, and she sees the ring that she has on. So it's like she has her wedding ring still on, of course. And she's like, so where I never see him. He goes, is it long distance?
Oh no. Oh, this made me cringe. Oh.
And I laughed so hard. And she was like, kinda, he died. She was like, alrighty. Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you bring that up with anyone? I mean, really, it's such a hard topic. It's like, oh, he's always out of town. Like,
yeah.
So bad.
But it's a natural reaction for her going, oh, you're married. You would think, I never see a man come to your house. I'm sure, I'm wondering, I wondered too. And then, as she was just saying, it was a very Charlotte. So we had Rose and Charlotte first doing a mitzvah. Anthony says, can I bring someone? They started to see somebody, actually. And I love the lines he said. Oh, no. She asked, you a total friend. She knows Anthony. Is he appropriate for children? I can't find his dick pic online anywhere. That is just, to me, yep. I'm like, that's it. I love it. Love it. I chortled, as they say, for that. Then Lily screams. So now we're dealing with Lily. Now, I want to ask you a question. I kind of find it interesting that her daughters have gotten more play than Brady. He's gotten some. In the beginning, it was all kind of like the very beginning, it was very much him and the girl having sex, him and the girl having sex. Yeah. But then they really don't stay in until tonight.
Because there's not really much to it. They're just, there's not much to that storyline. But I feel like with Charlotte's kids, there's a lot more depth to what they're going through. And they're at a different age where, you're like coming into yourself and your body's changing as we see in this episode. And like, so I don't know. But I do notice that like, it was very like Brady was pretty prominent in like the first or two episodes. And then they're just like, well, whatever, they're going to have sex all the time. So whatever, Yeah, I think but like there also wasn't, what's interesting, which we kind of, we'll get to, kind of see in the last episode. But what I realized is like, there wasn't really a conversation with the kids about what's going on with Miranda and Steve. And you would think that's a big conversation. Like, I don't know if your parents were together or not and stayed together.
No, they got divorced.
My parents got a divorce too. Like, I remember that so vividly. And you remember that moment vividly when your parents are like, hey, we're getting a divorce. We're no longer going to be living together. Like, so many of my friends, that's a pivotal moment in your life. So like the fact that they didn't address it of like even a separation with the kids seems kind of odd.
Yeah, for me, it was the divorce talk and then the remarriage talk. Both my parents got remarried when I was in high school. I'll never forget those talks. So I was like, you're getting a new mommy and daddy. I had to deal with that. So at 14, 15 years old, I remember that. So the talk show. I'm surprised that Miranda didn't talk to Brady. I mean, there was a scene of that. It's one of the scene of that. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But Lily, another controversial episode, folks, really got upset. She's used tampons. I'm not a woman, so I don't know. A lot of women got upset. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'll defer to you.
Why were I didn't see people get upset. What were they upset about? That she didn't want to use tampons, or that she didn't know how to?
Because later on, we'll talk about that later on. Them depicting her putting a tampon. I can't say tampon. A tampon. I can't get it out. I have daughters. I can't get it out. A tampon in. So what's about that scene? That scene got people upset about that.
Yeah, I mean, not to get like in the
what, girl?
Not to get in there. But depending like from a woman's perspective, depending on your body, like it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, I'm glad you're here. So I know seriously, when I do this episode, I'm like glad I have a female co-host because I need somebody to talk about this.
Okay.
Because I saw stuff online. I'm just like, I can't talk to it because I'm a guy. So I thought it was a pretty realistic depiction.
I mean, okay, so I remember. I want to tell you a story.
Tell a story. That's what I was like. You're a girl.
My sister's 2 years older, right? And I remember my sister taught me how to use a tampon, right?
Sister, okay.
So, Kirsten, you're gonna get all the stories today. Sometimes when that's you're learning how your body works, right? So you're like, how do we do all this, right? And so because I had an older sister, my mom tried to describe it to me, but you're like, I was 9, by the way. Wow. I started when I was really, really young. Yeah. My sister was 11 or 12 or so. Because I remember what's interesting. My sister's going to be so mad. I love
it.
Because I remember it was around her bat mitzvah, ironically.
Oh, okay.
So she was 12. So maybe I was 10.
Okay.
And I remember it was like a big deal because she's like, oh my God, her bat mitzvah and her period. And it was a big deal, right? It was like, oh my God, it's happening all at the same time.
Yes, yes.
And I remember my mom had a fit because she's like, oh my God, both my girls at the same time. Like it was within like 6 months of each other.
Yeah.
Like, but I remember my mom was like, holy crap. And then explaining it to my dad was hilarious. We'll get into that.
Clueless. We're clueless.
Because my dad was like, oh, you mean like you need notepads for school, right?
Notepads.
No, Dad. No, Dad.
Those kind of pads, Dad.
We got to like feminine, like woman pads. Like we got like feminine hygiene products,
That's so funny, man.
But like the thing is, like it felt very relatable because I was like, as like a young girl who like, yeah, you can see diagrams and you can have health teachers describe it and you can have all this, but you don't know until you go through it.
That whole sequence was pretty funny, but it did seem like it was realistic. So like for us guys, we're getting a glimpse into this because my baby mothers took care of my daughters. I didn't not feeling that stuff. They took care of that. So I never knew myself. I mean, I'm a former nurse and I know how it works, but like I never knew the passing down of the torch of like that's something you have to learn from a female. Like you have to like really learn that from somebody who knows specifically how to use them. And I thought the girls were all talking about, well, my mother didn't say anything. Like you just said, your sister showed you, and that was why. So I think it's still realistic. That it's something that it's essential, obviously, to women once a month.
Yeah, and there's some families and friends that I had friends that were like, no, my mom's not going to let me use a tampon yet. Like we're going to use only pads. So like it's interesting how like it's also like there's like kind of cultural stigmas and like family things around that like milestone in your life that like
I thought that because this is a spin-off or whatever of Sex and the City, and now that the girls have women, the women have young women on the show, that it made sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like they're passing the torch. Like we're seeing the next generation, and so I like how these last few episodes were really about those big milestones, like becoming a woman, or at least in Rock's example, they are kind of growing into themselves and making choices for themselves and finding who they are. But I think it's just it's part of that growing up. It's really finding yourself is the big takeaway I found in these last two episodes.
Especially this last episode, all the women, Black women, Seema, everybody, they're all at a crossroads, kind of. They're all kind of. So I saw folks there was two, and from women, not from men, from women. Like it's too real, and too this, and too real, and so she's a kid, and I'm like, the child's like what, 14 or 15? That's what they're talking about the show, how I run the show.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty late to start. Yeah. I think is she in
she's 13? Oh no, she's 12.
13, 12, 13.
But they're teenage.
Yeah, I mean everyone knows it's going to happen at that age.
Right.
I mean, most should know if they have like the the right people around them telling them.
That's what I would think.
But
I would think, girl.
It's always like it's always such like a it's just an interesting milestone for parents too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That are like, oh wow, okay, this is.
Yeah, it's like. Well, I know for me as the father, it was like, oh, she can have kids now. Kind of. That's kind of how you start to think about it. It's like, oh, if she has sex now, the possibility of having a child can happen.
I mean, theoretically, biologically, or
yes. Yeah. Right. But you know, I mean, it doesn't always happen, obviously. But I'm just saying, it's like that's for me. It's more like, yes, she's becoming a young woman, but I'm coming from a male perspective, going, oh no, my daughter can actually reproduce, possibly, if it starts to work out. So anyway, we have that going on, but at the same time, another lady is coming along in her journey, and that's Miranda, that the Empire Diner, which I've been to before, and her and Che are talking or whatever and getting food. Of course, Che has fans, and especially very popular. And Miranda says she's the girlfriend. I noticed Shade looked at her, but didn't say anything.
No.
Looked at her, anything. But we'll talk about what happens later, but that goes there. Meanwhile, Carrie and Seema are, waiting in a club, which is so funny when you're older, waiting at a club in line, which I haven't done in years. But obviously, I know how they felt like, why are we waiting in line at the club? And then her thought, Emily, should she take her ring off or not? Well, she's in the club because she is single. I put in air quotes. She's single. Doesn't mean because you leave it on, no one will approach you, obviously. Or they shouldn't approach. I should say shouldn't approach you. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, I mean, not gonna lie, I kind of take my ring off when I go out to clubs. I mean, but obviously my husband's not dead, but I just
No, he's very much alive. Yes,
he's very much alive. I just do it to get free drinks.
I love it. Just I love it.
I mean, you just have to get it. You do it for free drinks and maybe a little bit of attention.
Yeah, why not? That's nothing wrong with that. Right. But they don't get in. It's Seema's birthday. She's 54. And they don't get in. It was hilarious. Try to bribe the guy to get in. But it was just funny. So this is where I can relate. Seema has this little speech she says when they're sitting there. They have a piece of cake to share, and they're talking about being 54 and like where am I now and love. And I've had these talks with my friends who are my age. Most of them are coupled. I'm one of the few single ones left. So, but I talked to them, I said, you guys have no idea because you guys you're in a relationship. You know what it's like to be single out there dating. And she brings up the whole thing. I just thought I would be somewhere at a certain point in my life. Like I know I'd be here. I say it all the time in a positive way. I go, I'm doing things I never thought I'd be doing at this age. But when it comes to love and stuff, I thought I'd have somebody too. I thought I'd be with somebody and I'd be happily with them and have my job. And it's just interesting to have that thought. And I'm sure it happens different milestones, but just because she's in her mid-50s, I'm in my mid-50s, my birthday's in 3 months. I was kind of like, I relate to that a little bit. I think people can relate to that.
Well, I think there's so much pressure. Like, there's so much pressure, even just as like, okay, even when you hit like your 30 your birthday, right? Everyone's like, well, you should already have kids, you should already be married, you should already have this and that. And when we watched Sex and the City, that was what they were going for, right? Like they were mid-20s, they were going after that long lasting love, right?
Yes.
But that's like a societal frame we put on everyone, that's like, okay, you need to accomplish these things at a certain age, and if you don't do that, then you're not fulfilled, right?
It's true. When did you get married?
It's not. Oh my God. Okay, so I was a youngin'.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I got married at 24.
Okay. We get to miss all that. Oh, when are you gonna get married? Because you already got married. He's like, I'm already married. So.
I already got married. I just whatever. And what's interesting is my family was definitely they knew him for a really long time. We grew up together, so we had that foundation. But they also had concerns we were too young. They thought it was way too young. They were like, "You're not," because all my parents got married at 30.
Really? Oh wow.
29, 29, 30, they got married and then had kids right away. So.
Okay.
So for them, it was like, oh, whoa. And then his parents got married after knowing each other for 6 months.
Wow. Okay.
They're not together anymore, but literally they had so much baggage that they brought, again, you're marrying into a family, you're marrying into you have all that baggage that comes with you.
Yes.
And so everyone was like, hey, blah, 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 don't make the same mistakes, do all that. Yeah. But also you see it in TV and film. We see it in when we watch Sex and the City, that it's everyone's going towards that goal. But what I think in this episode, what it shows is that you can get it at any age. My mother-in-law, my husband's mom, literally didn't date for 22 years and found a boyfriend 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
And they're perfect for each other.
That's crazy.
And it's oh my God. And that's what I keep telling people. It does. And I tell people that are oh, well, all these people have kids right now and all these people have these amazing careers. And I was like, it is a sliver of what people go through in their life journey. And you can't, first of all, you can't compare yourself to others. But also it can happen at any age. Anything can happen.
Right.
Like I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Right.
Right. And then like,
yes.
you know, knock on wood, but like, well, I'm not going outside tomorrow, so I'll be good. But like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like anything can happen. Anything can happen for you. Like anything can happen for you. I believe in it. Like if you're open to whatever, you know, I don't mean to like be preachy or anything, but if you're open to that in the universe, like it can happen. So I feel like this episode, you just have to like be open to that energy and, you know.
Well, she does actually meet a man. So later in
and she does. There you go.
Yes. So you're right. So everything you're saying is correct. She met a man later. We learned his name was Zed. That's what we didn't know what his name was. Another episode. He was just a club owner.
I know. I was like, oh, he's just hot. I like.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even catch his name. I was like, whoa.
No name. Then they gave a name Zed or something this episode. So she actually meets somebody. So literally, almost like you said, she had to let go and just like she said, I'm doing pretty well. Otherwise, I'm doing fine.
And that's the thing. It's like you could be good in all aspects, like 4 out of the 5 areas of your life, and then but you're always going after that one, right? You're always going after that love. You're always going after that. But that doesn't define you. It doesn't, you know, make you who you are.
I agree. So now it's time for the special dinner that Homegirl's having, and this part made me laugh. It was unrealistic, but it did make me laugh. Anthony brings his hot man, Justin. And when he says, this is a Jewish dinner, he goes, you know, the Holocaust is a hoax. He goes, get out. I did chuckle, but it was so unrealistic, though. It's like, no one would do that right away. Like, I mean, it made me chuckle.
Haven't you been to like a dinner party where like you're meeting like a friend's boyfriend or guest or something, and then they say like an awkward thing like right off the bat? I've been there.
I know. I've had
not to that extreme where I'm like, oh, a Holocaust denier. Okay.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I've had it where you get in, you're all having some drinks, you're talking, and stuff comes out. You're like, oh, okay. Or we're at the dinner. I've had it at the dinner table. We're all having dinner, discussing stuff and things. I mean, that was just so off the bat. I mean, it made me laugh.
I know. I had it with some people that I haven't hung out with them for like a long period, like a long extended time, but like I'm like colleagues with them. And I remember we actually like had time to hang out. And I remember we hung out and I was like, oh, and they said something that I was like, oh, this is, oh, that makes sense of why we don't hang out. Okay.
Exactly.
It was like eye-opening. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why they say certain things a certain way.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, awkward. Like, how do I get out of this dinner?
Exactly. I've had a few dates like that. And then you got Lily at that moment is ready to learn how to use a tampon. Meanwhile, there's challah in the bread and in the oven, so please watch that because it comes back later, of course, in the episode. But
do you realize how hard it is to make challah? You don't burn challah. Like, don't burn challah.
They burnt it too.
Take it out of the oven. Ugh.
Challah bread is so delicious. It looks so pretty.
I would hand when I was in college. I would make homemade challah every Friday.
Wow, that sounds good. Yummy.
I don't do it so much anymore because I don't eat that much bread.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Carrie pulls out the ring. She puts John's on. It's too big, but she puts it on. Meanwhile, and we found what happens there. So later episode, she got a lot of flack for that too. Okay, so anyway, let's see. So Carrie says she meets up with Peter. This scene got a lot of hate also. And said,
why is everyone hating? Everyone's hating.
People are hating. I can't do, if they're on his side, I can't do dinner. I didn't want to text you. So that's why I came in person. And she shows the rings and he says, I still have Anne's voicemail. And so folks were telling me they should have still had lunch. We still had dinner. They're both hurting. Why not get together at that moment? He asked her out several. He paid $1,000 for nothing. That was that $1,000 dinner. So people were getting mad at her, and I said, Well, Carrie's always been a little bit selfish. He's always been kind of that way a little bit. I mean, that's just kind of her. But she is also mourning, so you're not thinking clearly either. So there's a little bit of that. So I don't know. What do you think?
So she showed up in person, said, sorry, I'm not gonna be at this dinner, right?
Right.
What I think they should have done is like, don't make it a dinner, but at least like go get ice cream or something. Go get like something, right? Maybe like she couldn't handle the full on like 5 hours of sitting at a fancy restaurant, but come on. Like he bid on it and he got he won the auction. Just like say, hey, or postpone it. Be like, hey, I'm not ready. Let's just get ice cream or something, or take a walk. Like it does, like there's so many moments. So like this moment did bother me a little bit because it reminded me of so many of the moments in the series where Carrie was super selfish.
Oh yeah.
Where she definitely like was not thinking clearly and not taking into account her friends' feelings, not taking into account the people she's dating feelings. So I was like, oh, she's 54 years old. She's not going to change.
Right, exactly. So I was like, okay. So to me, it felt like Carrie, she felt like she was doing the right thing by showing up in person. It's
yeah, but
yeah.
She should have just wrote a post-it.
Post-it. That's a little word. That's a little back and forth. She wrote a post-it. So I have a
there you go. There you go.
Right. That's actually really funny. So then Miranda, this awkward scene that's hilarious. Miranda, she got a lot of flack for this too, of course. They think Miranda's like this mealy mouth person. I don't know what's going on. I say she's growing, she's changing. That's why she's so neurotic. But she goes to see Che with cookies, and shows up. And Che, and at first I was like, oh no, Che's with somebody.
That's what I thought too.
But it wasn't that. So I'm like, good, it wasn't that. It was like she was just shocked that she was doing some writing, was just shocked that Miranda's like, and Miranda goes, wait a minute, I would never do this. I don't do this to a guy. I don't do that. And I was laughing. I was just laughing so hard.
So neurotic and like she was 16 years old.
Yes.
Trying to like track down her boyfriend. Like I was like, oh my God, you can't like it's an atypical relationship. You're not gonna, it's not your like, and that's what Che like warned of. They said, hey, I'm not gonna be into girlfriends. I'm not gonna be into boyfriends. Like I'm not in that like norm that people, those blocks that people put us in, right? And Miranda is not ready for that. Like this, she was so like stalkerish. She's like, oh my God, okay, what am I doing? This isn't. She was so dramatic. I was like,
I know.
Take a moment.
She goes, you're the only person I'm sleeping with. She doesn't say that. And we're getting to know each other. Ditch the script. It's almost like what you were just saying earlier about just life. We gotta let go. You gotta let go. Gotta let go. Stop holding on so tight. And that's kind of a lesson that we all have to learn. But I know at my age, we're all learning that too. We're learning that also. So the next thing is, and there's some flack in this one too, folks, with Stephen and Carrie. The folks got mad at Carrie. Paid for charity. I couldn't stop laughing. Well, so Brady was there, obviously Steve. They were there. They came. Seema came, and she was not going to be painting. There's not going to be that. Naya came. I was like, wait a minute. Naya and Carrie hadn't met before. I was like, they just met. I'm like, oh, okay, they just met. I was like, wow, that's interesting. And Charlotte also meets Naya too. So I guess she didn't meet them yet. I go, I guess they've never been together. But oh my goodness, when Lisa Wexley pulls up in that giant limo, stretch limo, she's like, I know, I ordered a regular van. I couldn't stop laughing. I know the optics or whatever, but she comes in and saves the day with the food trucks and all the food. That was kind of funny. But she came by accident. So everybody's together. Basically, the series. And we get to see some of Naya and Andre again, a couple I do like. I thought it was a very realistic conversation. Mm-hmm. They were watching Lisa's husband hurt with the kids, and he was feeling those pangs of parenthood. And Naya said something that was so interesting. She's like, don't let us find each other not be enough. That's a very interesting statement. And he said, I don't know if I can not, this can't be enough. He said, I don't know if I'm ready to stop thinking about being a parent. It's crazy. I was like, I'm rooting for both of them on some level, but they're at an impasse.
I know I'm rooting for them so hard either way, like that
Right.
they find contentment in their relationship as is without kids, or that it happens, right?
I agree.
And I think this is something like just to, like, this I think is a very realistic conversation. I think this is a conversation a lot of couples have, in whether they're struggling to have kids, whether, like in this case, whether they're just not ready to have kids, whether that's part of the life that they want, because not every couple wants it. But again, this goes back to like those boxes and those parameters that society says that, because you're this age, you need to have these certain things, that makes that pressure very like real. So I think this is a very like, I like that the storyline is here, because it just shows kind of an old, like a pretty much an older couple, pretty much at the last few years of when they could potentially have kids, kind of in the impasse of either being content in their relationship, or I mean, they could adopt, they could do a bunch of other options,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But
I think,
Naya is like, I don't know if I want kids.
yeah,
It's always been us.
I know. And it's like, it's like, I kind of struggle with this in the sense of like, I love my friends' kids. And I love my nephew, right? And I'll take my nephew and I'll spend hours and hours with them, but I can leave. Like I can go home and I can like go leave the house at any point and not have to worry, right? But like my sister and my friends, they have a whole other, like their life completely changed when you have kids, and your job changes and your role as because you have an extra added job. You are a mom, or you are a father, or you are a parent, you're a guardian. It changes, your whole life shifts, and not everyone is ready for it. Sometimes they say they might be ready, but then once it happens, or once a pregnancy happens, they're like, oh, it totally is different.
I know my grandson who's grown, him and his girlfriend decided they don't want kids. They're very young,
Mm-hmm.
but so far, 3 years together, nothing's happened. So I don't know if that's going to continue. I have other friends who have chosen, I have cousins who've been married for, I think, like 20 years. They don't want kids. My best friend's Cameron Lewis, another ex-After buzzer. Him and his wife don't want kids. I mean, they like being together, and if they have animals, they have, like I said, nephews and nieces, and they're loving to them. And I think it's okay not to have kids. I mean, that's, if you both agree on it, again, but see, that's the problem. You both have to agree on that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you have to make sure both of you are on the same page. If you're not on the same page, this is where it gets really tricky. And you've seen this in movies, and I've had friends that have had like really tough conversations, because if you want one thing and your partner wants another.
I know. And now the other part of the house, Carrie and Steve have a conversation. And he wants to know about Miranda and Shay. And how
Oh
long
my God. Can I say that the most distracting thing, I love this scene, by the way, but the most distracting part is, why are you painting in heels? Sorry, I had to get that out.
Which plays into the story, right?
Which plays into the story, and then we get into the whole other ring dilemma thing. But
yes.
This conversation broke my heart, because I love Steve. Yeah. And Steve, like, I mean, I have girlfriends that I've confided in on things that, like, obviously I haven't figured out either how to talk to my partner about. Like, I always sometimes go to my sister and my friends first, right? And then I like confide in my partner. So like, obviously Carrie knew all this stuff happening first. And Steve knows that. Steve knows, like, you're part of this relationship, right? Yeah. And it's just, I feel bad for the guy.
Everybody did. Let's say everybody felt bad.
Oh, I just want to give him a hug.
Everybody felt bad. And then she drops the ring and freaks the F out in the drain. So I was like, it's like gonna fall that little thing right there. As long as you don't, it didn't go down the toilet. So like, it just went down the sink. I think it'll be fine. So Steve saves the day. Of course,
I know. Of course, Steve saved the day, because he's that guy.
That guy. Of course, he is. Then we got the slapsticky moment of the show where Lily's tampon is stuck, apparently. She can't find it. And she freaks, as a teenager would, freaks the F out. I was laughing. They had to go to a porta potty. And homegirl, Charlotte, wearing all white.
Her classic color.
Classic color, gets her period.
Oh, man. Oh, this scene. Oh, it made me like, I
would say, like, as a woman, as a young girl, this would speak to you differently. I chuckled, but I mean, I know you guys would feel that.
Oh my God. I mean, I think every girl or woman has had that moment that Charlotte's had where you're like, don't know that it happened. And you're like, it's all everywhere. Like, it freaking happens and it sucks. And it like, and then you just like feel shitty about it, you know? But also like, as like Lily, like you know, been there, done that, where you're just like,
yes.
Oh man, like you're getting adjusted to everything. You don't know like how things work. And, you know, it's a whole thing. It's a whole process. So I did kind of laugh. I did kind of laugh like, oh man, like, you know, I laughed, but like the whole Charlotte thing is like kind of funny, but also sucks.
I feel for women. I do. Men, we have no idea. Our bodies don't do that much. Women have changes in their bodies all their whole lives. You have your whole lives.
Every like 5 years, I feel like.
That's crazy. That's crazy, girl. I just like, I came.
And some people. So what's interesting is some people start menopause. There's also like, there's the classic age of menopause starting, right? Which I know Charlotte mentions in the show, but there's also premenopause. And there's also, you can get symptoms of menopause in your late 30s, early 40s.
That's crazy. I feel bad for you. That's crazy.
It's crazy. My mom had menopause for like 25 years.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I've had a hot flash. It's not fun. Trust me. I've had a hot flash. Those things are not fun. And that brings us to, and just like that, it brings us to the finale. See,
oh my God, so much.
They packed a lot, didn't they? It was 42 minutes. They packed a lot.
So much.
Okay, we're gonna dig in, kids. The podcast, worst breakup, which plays into stuff later. The worst breakup. Carrie, of course, wins. My man died. Ha ha ha. She talks to Big's ashes in the closet. So apparently, we skipped a step somehow. And she went on a date. She's going on a date with Peter. I was like, oh. I mean, it made it sound like they were done forever, kind of like, oh, I'll call you one day. Then all of a sudden, they had a date.
I guess they made up, and no, I mean, I was kind of shocked, like, oh, but I think what happened was there was that, you know, I think she realized, oh, okay, when I'm ready, because we find out in this one that it's almost been a year.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, okay, I think that's an appropriate amount of time.
Yeah, I think so too. We told this before, but it's just funny. I just thought that Peter was done, so I'm glad he's back. I mean, he was back.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, I like him too. I like him, but we'll see what happens later. But I like Peter. But they talk, which a real thing happens, right? It happens to me all the time now. I Googled you, and that happens. I talked about Google this morning on my show. I did this. I talked about Googling, and I said I haven't Googled myself for a long time. So live on my show, JLJ This Morning Live, you can watch it. After you're done with this show, you can watch it. This from today. I Googled myself live on air to see what it said. It's weird. Emily, you should Google yourself one day because it's a trip. So, side note, folks, we get all the stories today. It's a side note. When I Googled myself with Flobo, our buddy Flobo Voice, he Googled me. And two things came up that I had no idea about. Someone is selling t-shirts as mine. It says James Lott Jr.'s Days Are Our Lives. And I'm not.
No way.
It's a shirt that I wear all the time on my social.
Someone's making money off you.
I know. I started laughing. I think it's hilarious. I was thinking it's just funny because I don't Google myself. I never Google myself. Like, who Googles yourself? So it's funny that he Googled me and that came up.
Oh my God.
I'll look into that later, folks. I'll let you know what's going on. But I was just like, when he said I Googled it, she was like, well, I kind of Googled it. She was like, you're a best teacher, blah, blah. So they Googled each other. That's a common, I mean, whenever I have a possible date person, I do go online and look. I look at the social media. I do. I see their social media, and I don't know if I Google, but I look on social media usually. That's a common thread.
I mean, but that's what you do. You like Instagram, Twitter. Like you stalk people. You're like, I mean, I haven't gone on a date.
You stalk people. You stalk people.
But you know, that's what you do.
Yes, I do. Or my friends will. They'll tell me. Like, I went online already. Actually, Flomo's good for that. I'll be like, I'm already online. They have this. I'm like, thanks, Flomo. What are best friends for? But she called. They kiss. They kiss, and it's not magical. We'll say it was decent, in her words. She calls Seema, who's with our hot man. They're smokers. It's so funny to see people smoking. It's so funny to see that. There's a smoking section. I go, in Vegas? There's a smoking section in a hotel. She's very happy. I guess she's the new Samantha, I guess. Esque character, I guess.
Kind of, a little bit, yeah.
I know a little bit. I think so. And then she's in bed and her little lamp keeps coming on. And she thinks it's big. I thought that's Liz. So then we have the girls' lunch where she talks about that. And we see clearly, I forgot. Well, Charlotte obviously is Jewish, so she's practicing Jew, she's religion. I forgot that Miranda's an atheist. That's right. I totally forgot about that.
I forgot about that too. Yeah.
So when they talked, so now Carrie, she'll be called an agnostic, folks, if that was the actual term. She's like, I'm not sure if I believe, but it possibly could be out there. Since Big died, which things like that happen to people. A major life change happens, like death. And so I thought that was really a realistic conversation as they were talking and getting food and about that. And literally, they set up the episode. She's thinking about Big and all the stuff going on there. Miranda tells him that she's going to be Che's family, and homegirl found a trans rabbi for the day mitzvah. So you got it all set up.
Amazing, yeah. So what's interesting is like we saw the lamp turn on and off, and so I don't know if you remember, but like, Big got cut out of this episode. So
oh yeah, I can remember.
We'll talk about it because it's interesting that I was like, oh, that's where he should have been.
Yes.
And that's where he should have been.
Yes.
And that's where he should have been. And I was like, oh, okay. So because when they announced that he was going to be removed, I was like, well, it's obviously going to have to be a ghost or a flashback or some type of dream or something. So I was like, okay, those might be easy to cut out. But I think it still worked.
It worked. But you're right. I was going that. Yeah. What's what that say? So let's see. Oh, and Carrie's texting with Samantha about her dates and asks Samantha, "Do you want to talk?" And she writes back, "Soon."
Yes. Big deal. That was a big deal. That's a step in the right direction.
Okay. So Anthony brings over this beautiful piece of challah bread. I mean, it looked beautiful. It looked beautiful. But it was sourdough challah. Have you ever heard it before?
I've never had sourdough challah.
It sounds weird. It sounds weird.
I've had raisin challah. I've had egg challah. I've had chocolate chip challah. Yeah. I've had rainbow challah. I've had so many types of challah, but I've never had sourdough challah.
Yeah, I never had it before. But meet the trans rabbi, very cool. And she's like, you're not ready. Rock's not ready. Not ready at all. And Anthony marches in there and gives that pep talk. She's made me laugh. Of course, it's all about him, of course, and how he was in this thing. But it was really good. It's like, you need to get together.
So this was very relatable because I also had my bat mitzvah as well.
Yes.
My sister as well. And what's interesting is that my sister and I had very different studying practices leading up to the day. I was very studious and studied hard and practiced I knew every prayer. I knew my Haftarah and my Torah portion. And I led the service pretty much from beginning to end. I was like, I don't need a rabbi.
Okay, go
And
on, girl.
but my sister on the other hand was very like, okay, I'm gonna do this and this, and then I think that's as much as I can do, like minimal. Not that I'm not trying to like minimize what my sister did, but I just remember we had we had different rabbis at that time and very different requirements.
Oh, okay.
And then what's funny is like I've seen I had my other cousins get their bar mitzvahs or bat mitzvahs, and they, depending on how big your temple is, at least where I grew up, depending on how big or how much or how long your Torah portion is, or like what prayers you're doing. So I feel like since they're in New York, I feel like they would only do like there's a prayer called the Ve'ahavta, which most of you, pretty much every student learns how to do that one. And then you have like a line or two of your Torah portion in big congregations. I had a small congregation, so I could do more. Because I remember I went to my cousin's and he only had one line, like in the whole, like he had one line because he had like 12 other bat mitzvahs that day.
Oh, okay.
So it was like a whole like, so he did like one line of the Ve'ahavta and then like one line of Torah portion. And I was like, wait, we're gonna have a $50,000 party, and then you do 2 lines?
Oh, that's crazy! Wow.
Yeah, I was like, okay, whatever.
Okay, I love it.
I'm not paying for it.
You're not paying for it. I love it. That's so interesting.
But and we'll talk about it. But like these parties are legit. These parties.
I know they are. I know they are.
These parties are legit, man.
I've been to a few here in LA. I've been to a few in Beverly Hills. Trust me, I know.
Woo! It is like a wedding. Like it's $100,000.
Well, in my family, it's the quinceañera, so that's the same thing. We have the father-daughter dance and the entrance, the dress. I mean, it's.
Oh, you have the dress. You have like you have all the favors. You have all the themes. You have like we have like a candle ceremony. You have like balloons. Like it is wild. You have all the food.
Yes.
Cake, challah. Like, oh my God. I had like, I remember we had like a 6-foot challah because it has to feed like 200 people.
I love it. I do. I love it.
Yeah.
I love tradition. I don't care. I like it.
Sorry, we derailed a bit.
It's our show. Do what he wants. We follow along. But Miranda, so Miranda and Cher at this club. I'm like, why at the club? I'm thinking, why at the club? And there's Abuela and Abuelita sitting there. I was like, okay, and like Miranda's like, I don't know what's going on here, and like, what? They just sit right here. And then Sarah Ramirez, of course, is a singer. She's been on Broadway.
Amazing Broadway.
She's an amazing singer. So they're incorporating that into the show, obviously. But she starts singing California Girls. Like, okay, I like the song, of course, but I was like, that's interesting. And Miranda's just like, what is going on here? They didn't know what's going on. And then she announces, which I didn't see this coming at all, she's going to Hollywood to film a pilot.
Yeah.
And
it's huge news. Yeah, Miranda's like, oh crap. Like her face was hilarious. She's like, oh crap. Like,
yes.
But I didn't think it was bad though, because I don't think Shay would have done that big gesture, like sing and do that whole song, if like they didn't have the intention of having Miranda come with them.
I agree.
And didn't have the intention of saying, I love you and I want to be with you and all that. Because you wouldn't do that. Like, why would you do that? You would talk to them and say, hey, I'm going to California.
Miranda asked that. She goes, she had enough time to put together a song and a band and practice.
Yeah.
Like, I love you and I want you to come with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God. She could tell she was so happy, but also still shocked. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I couldn't stop laughing because she was so like, this is so, and this sets up, and Emily May, I'm sure you agree, this sets up what I call later the reverse conversation of Carrie Miranda when Carrie was going to go to Paris. They literally, we're going to get to that scene, but it was literally the reverse. I was like, oh my God. I loved it. But anyway, Miranda is living her best life, bitches. She was like, I'm going to run for love, blah, blah, blah.
She is like throwing everything out the window, though. And like, I have mixed feelings about this.
Well, we're going to talk about it. We get to that scene.
Okay, sorry.
We're going to talk about
so many things.
It's a great scene. That's what I want. I'll make sure we talk about it. Okay. But Shay tells the podcasters. So I immediately thought, I'm a producer. You're a producer. We're all producers. I was like, just you do the podcast, Carrie. I'm thinking, just keep it going. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. But it was her podcast. She was saying goodbye. I don't. I saw Franklin once or twice in the episodes before. He was hot. Like he's kind of hot. I'm thinking he's kind of hot. I didn't really look at him before.
I see. I don't remember that producer. I don't remember. Like I remember maybe like he was looking through the window at one point.
So it was like way early on.
Would take the calls. Like would take the calls. Like, oh, there are no calls or whatever. But I didn't see. I don't know. I didn't get that connection. He wasn't like he was like a peripheral character that I didn't.
He was.
Not
That's
even
what I'm
like
saying. I don't really.
Yeah, I didn't connect those dots.
Yeah, I was just like, he is hot, which plays later. I didn't know it was going to play later, but I'm like, he's hot. Miranda and Naya, she goes to see, and I tell her, I'm going to not heck to the internship. I'm going to go follow love. You know, and I know the homegirl's like, I was expecting, we learned that Andre took the tour. So he'll be gone for a few months. I was like, oh, my heart broke. And I heard like, oh. And she was hoping to hang out with Miranda, but she also was like, I did this whole thing for you to get this internship is really, really, really hard to get in. But she's like, I'm following my heart.
I can't.
I can't. Like, yeah. Yes. No, save it. Actually, save it. We get to the fight. We get to the argument. We get to the argument. You can just let it all out. Okay. So Carrie meets with John's brother. And that scene was kind of funny too, because at first it was like, so where's John? I was like, oh my God. I started laughing.
No.
Like,
yeah.
What? And she's like, what do you mean? Where's John? It's like, he died. I know he died. I don't think I started laughing. Like, where is he? She's like, oh. So
yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh my God, did he forget? I'm like, that's weird.
Can you imagine? Like, have you been in like that before where like where like someone doesn't know someone died and you have to tell them?
Oh yeah, I have.
Oh my God.
It's one of the worst things in my entire life.
I was like, oh shit. But I was like, his brother would have been there. Yeah.
So she was like, but the way they set up was kind of like, but all he said was, where's John? Like he said like, and when she said, I laughed when she said, he's in a really good place. He's in my closet, next to my shoes. My really good shoes. If you knew me really well, you get how important that is. I did chuckle. That was cute.
That's funny, yeah.
That was cute. She takes her lamp to get repaired. Also, I forgot about that. And it's a bad wire, and gets it fixed. So we have that going on. She goes to Jackie's party, the young crazy guy who was on the podcast. They became friends, so they're friends. So she's collecting people along the way. And he got married. Surprise wedding. Him and his girl got married. Surprise wedding. And that's when Franklin comes out and says, I used to do a podcast on relationships. To me, it's just such a natural progression. It's like such like.
What's funny is like I feel like it is a natural progression. I totally thought Carrie would have had one already.
Right.
Of like her talking, like turn your column or your original like articles into a show and just say like, here's my topic of the day. Like, what was your worst breakup of all time? Have people call in, how do you get over the loss of your husband? Okay, that's the topic of the day. Like, there you go. You have an hour of content.
Yes. Here's the thing. I actually went through this. So my longest running show I have to this day, 7 years in running, the Super Organizer Show with James Lott Jr., my organizing show. I had a blog before that. And someone saw my blog and literally called me and said, can you do a show off your blog? And now 7 years later, I still haven't. So I'm like you. I just thought Carrie would have naturally went from that or talk show. I thought she would go from that.
Yeah, or a talk show.
Talk show. I just thought she'd be either. So I agree with you on that completely. So here it is, the part that we were saying where Big was probably supposed to be in.
Mm-hmm.
There's several little scenes there. One, of course, was the dream. And the way they cut it, it starts and she looks and then it cuts out. Which some dreams do. Like we have dreams that do like.
That's true.
Right. So I think I agree with you. They worked it out. But we know it probably would have been a conversation or she would have saw him. We would have saw him. This will be more. So, but do you think they should have cut it out?
I mean, I don't know. I don't miss it.
Okay.
I don't think it would have like necessarily added. I mean, I still thought the last episode was pretty emotional towards the end.
Yes. Yes.
But I don't think. I mean, I think it's fine that they cut it.
I was wondering if Big was supposed to be there also at the end. I was wondering
If who was supposed to be there?
Big on the bridge as she's scattering the ashes. I wonder if he was supposed to be there too or not. Or we should have already reconciled it by then. It was still.
No, I think that feels too like Ghost.
Okay. Tell her. I'll tell her my own way. Molly, you're in danger.
Yeah, I don't think it works for Sex in the City.
Okay, just checking. But anyway, so we could tell Carrot that Big was supposed to be there, but he wasn't there. But she said, and either he was going to tell her where he wants to be, or she would have saw him and realized that Big wants to be in Paris on our bridge, dumped over there.
We did miss that conversation. There was there obviously in the dream was some type of conversation.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like there's some dreams you have where you know based off of just the feeling you get after your dream.
That's true. I agree with that.
A symbol. So I think it still worked.
I agree. I totally agree. She asked Charlotte Miranda to come with her, all paid trips. She's a rich bitch. So you can pay with her. I'm paying for everybody. We're going. But Miranda, and this is all at the bat mitzvah, of course, for Rock. But Miranda says, I'm going to LA. I have to come from LA.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie's like, what? Meanwhile, we got Anthony and the Hot Boys on these little yarmulke things that were so hilarious.
These hot hollers coming in hot.
I know, I love it. It was hilarious. Delivering that in there. And then we find out Rock doesn't want to do it after all that. Rock's like, I don't want to do it. And Harry and Charlotte are at their wits' end. They don't know what to do.
God. Charlotte put so much time and effort into that. I would have been pissed.
But Rock says something that I get a little bit. She's just like, I'm 13 years old. Can I just be me and figure it out?
I mean, I had cousins, so like the majority of my cousins had a bat mitzvah, but there were some cousins that didn't want to have one. That some of their siblings did have them, and some of them did. Some of them did, some of them didn't. So it's a conversation you have to have because I started going to Hebrew school when I was 7 years old. Some people go since preschool, right? And when you're in preschool, you don't get to choose whether that's what you're doing, right? Just like you can't choose if you're getting a baptism or right?
That's what I went through, yes.
At a certain point, like when you're a kid, right? Or confirmation or any of that. So I kind of agree with this conversation that happens in the show is that at 13, like you might not know what you believe in yet. You might not know who you are and what your beliefs are because, like I didn't really understand I didn't understand world religion until I took a class on all of that, right? So I think it's okay, like, to not know, but I think Rock could have told them before.
Oh, yeah.
All this, I think but it caused drama and obviously like built up to things. But, I do like what happened though in the show.
Oh, well, at least she goes to LW and that's her friend. That's her Black Charlotte, as they call it. And she talked to her. It was like, all parents are bad. We need to go in there and take care of it. And when she marched in, and like somebody's going to do a bat mitzvah, I forgot that she didn't go through one. When she became Jewish, she converted.
Yeah, she converted. She did the mikvah. She did all of that. And so technically she didn't have a bat mitzvah. Right. So I loved this.
Okay.
I love this so much because there's a lot of adults that have an adult bat mitzvah because it's really like the word, like that phrase means that you're becoming a daughter of the commandments. So you're becoming a believer in like that Torah and a follower of that, and you're taking that and that's why you read your Torah portion because you're able to read from the Torah. So you're not able to read the Torah until you go through this ceremony.
Okay.
And you're an official adult and you're kind of hit that milestone. So I don't know if Charlotte previously did it. You're technically not supposed to, but I found it very like, because my mom converted.
Oh wow. Okay.
My mom converted, and she's talked about having a like an official bat mitzvah at some point in
Oh
her
okay.
life.
Okay.
So I think it's a really cool thing, and I've taught many people, many adults, and taught them how, like, what prayers they need to, and have tutored them to get their bat mitzvahs. And it's a very special, like, it's a very meaningful and special time. So I love how she knew enough to do it that day.
Well, Sean takes everything seriously, you know that. So
Very serious.
so that goes on. But here it is. We're gonna let it out because basically, oh, I was gonna say is, and Brady and Miranda, she dyed her hair red, back to red, and they're both going to the airport to live their new lives or whatever for a few months. There's that. But here's the fight that I was like, it's just like the original, but reverse. Miranda's like going, Miranda's like, I'm going to LA. Carrie gets upset. I thought it was how ironic. Miranda says, I can do both. But flying from LA to Paris, like, I can do both. I can be there for you and be there for Che. And she's like, passing my internship. And she's like, and she says the line that's the opposite of the other one that Miranda said to her. What are you gonna do all day? Sit around and applaud, or sit around in the audience and laugh. And remember, Miranda said to her, we're gonna do all day, sit around and eat croissant. I mean, like, the fight was the opposite. It was so interesting. Like, oh my God. And she goes, what? I can't change. I remember Carrie basically said the same thing.
Yes, I know.
Go ahead now, it's your turn. Get out there, let out.
Oh my God. I mean, I feel like Miranda is being so, like, so selfish. Like, I can't, I, I don't know. I had so many words earlier and I can't remember them all now. I was so mad. I get
the anger out of.
I know you got the anger. Like, I was so mad because she's being like, she's going on emotion and not rationality. Like, she's throwing her whole freaking life out the window for this person that just came into her life. Like, she's throwing away potentially her friendships. And that's what, like, the rabbi gets into it too. The rabbi was like, this is a sacred, like, your friendships are sometimes more important than any romantic relationship you can have.
Yeah.
And they're your ride or die, right? And Miranda is just being like, she's not even, like, you see that, like, she's not even, like, taking care of her kids, like, nothing. And, like, and I get it, like, Miranda's not that type of person to just to do this type of thing, right? She's very, like, logical and methodical. So, like, I get it. Like, we're seeing the transition. Like, maybe she's going through, like, a midlife crisis. I don't know, but I just was so frustrated with this scene because I just feel like you should be there for your friend.
I said it was just funny. It was ironic that literally she got pissed when Carrie did the exact same thing.
I know, and it's so insulting. It's so insulting.
Yes, but they both were being a little hypocritical. They both were.
I mean, they both were, but I feel like Miranda's being, like, way.
Well,
like,
she's going on. Well, she's the Carrie. She's being Carrie, basically. Yeah. She's doing this whole big thing, but Carrie can't get upset because Carrie, you should understand, for Alexander Petrovsky, you quit the column and you said, "I'm not my." I
know.
Remember that? And she's like, "What would you?" I remember the line she said, "So do I stay here and be what you need me to be, and never change?" I remember she said it back then. And basically, Miranda said the same thing. What, I can't change. I can't just go, come back if I want to. I mean, it was just a very interesting.
Do you remember when Big was moving to Paris or was going to be there for a little while, and then Paris and Carrie was like, oh, getting ready, like, oh, I'm going to go with you, and he was like, don't move for me.
He did say that.
Like this, I got those vibes because I was like, oh yeah. So many people make that mistake for making a huge life decision and moving for this person that is not as committed to you as you are to them. And you're not putting yourself first. you're giving up 5 things for this one thing, and they get all this extra stuff, and there's an imbalance there that we definitely are seeing here.
Yes.
And I like how they're kind of referencing some of this series a little bit, because people that know, like diehard fans that have watched, we know that there's a lot of like history here.
Yes, I love that episode where big my favorite lines of the whole series. You take a Napa, you don't move to Napa. That's my favorite lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
You take a Napa, you don't move to Napa.
You don't move to Napa.
Yeah, it's a fun line. They had a bunch. I mean, the puns were always great in the first episode. But I thought it was a very interesting thing where I think Miranda's having a midlife crisis. I think she is, because you're still married to Steve.
Oh my God, can we talk about one thing that I wanted to bring up, why was Steve not at the I know. Bat mitzvah?
I know.
Because like I've had friends that like have had their parents break up, and all of their like they're all there. Like it's one of those things. It's like weddings, funerals, bar mitzvahs, confirmations, like those big milestones. You go. Like if you're separated and you have things, you just go and like you just avoid the other person.
That's true.
Like there's 200 people, you can avoid them. I just felt like he should be there because he's known them for their whole lives.
I know.
That's what made me irritated. I was like, maybe he was there in the background and we didn't catch it, but I didn't see him.
I didn't see him either.
I was like, he should have been there.
I agree.
I'm so mad at Miranda. You got me all worked up.
Yeah, Miranda, screw you, Miranda.
Got me all worked up.
Well, she goes to the bridge. Beautiful peach dress. Huge dress. And has that Eiffel Tower purse. That was kind of cute. And there's a very touching scene at the bridge. Lets out the ashes. And then we see her texting Samantha. I'm in Paris. Want to go out for a cocktail? And she wrote back, how about tomorrow night?
I like that. That was good closure.
So yes, off camera.
It was. This was emotional for me on this bridge because this bridge meant so much to so many of the fans of Sex and the City, and like this was like that moment where we're like, okay, they're gonna be together, you know. And what I feel weird about is that her friends weren't there.
They weren't.
And like that's kind of made me feel weird. They weren't there the first time, but I feel like during this time, I feel like they should have been there. But Samantha, but then they added that little Samantha. So like what I think would have been more powerful is if they had all 3 of them there and then they messaged Samantha.
Yeah.
And then she says, what about tomorrow night? And then they're all then we get that in our head that they're all together.
I agree. And then the very end, and just like that, Sex and the City, the podcast is born.
Yes, and that is what it should have been all along.
Exactly. That's what I said. I said, there we go. Now we're caught up. So I think this is season 2, I think. I'm not sure.
Wait, you're missing the last thing that happened.
Last thing that happened?
Sorry.
Oh my God. Yes, forgot. So her and Franklin.
No, big.
No, I know. I mentioned it earlier too. I was like, okay, see the wine's getting to me now. Now I'm not as so.
Damn.
I want to mention this. Yes, exactly. So her and Franklin, who's now her producer, tall, dark, and handsome, they walk to the elevator, get the elevator, beautiful elevator. First of all, I'm like, what building are they in? Beautiful elevator. I noticed everything. I always everything. And they're standing there, and all of a sudden they go in for the kiss, and the show ends with "and just like that," and the thing closes.
Yes, and that was what she was talking about. That spark, that like, so she had that date with Peter that it didn't go well. That it was like he's a nice guy, but there wasn't that spark, and this happened like spontaneously. So that's what she was looking for. She's looking
things remind me. Yes, I'm like, I want to say, I want to talk about that because he's hot. So I don't know who he is, but he's hot.
No, I mean, this is like, okay, we're season 2. Let's get to it.
I haven't heard anything. It's gonna be. I think it's just season 2. I think.
Well, did you hear there's a documentary? We need to cover the documentary.
Okay, so yeah, folks, so I tell you about that. The little wine emoji. Okay, so Emily and I are talking. We're going to continue some part of the Sex City world. I'm going to talk to you really quick after the show about some stuff. But for this show, we will cover the documentary. We'll probably do a season wrap up, just like the whole season, like we thought the whole season, and a few other things. So even though the show is going off the air, we will be around in some form for your Sex and City and Just Like That needs. Just stay tuned to JLJ Media. We're going to discuss all that. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I agree with you. You should cover the documentary. There's a couple things I want to cover that we'll do as separate episodes. So I'll have that for you.
Totally.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
We got to keep talking. We got to keep talking about it.
Keep talking.
But this was the one, this was the episode where I was just like, oh, it's over. It's sad. Like I got a little choked up because I'm like, okay, I'm still mad at Miranda. I still wanted to hug Carrie and give her a big hug on the bridge. And, it's like, where did they go from here? Carrie has a podcast. And
Miranda's life's gonna be messy.
Miranda's in LA, but it's a mess. Like I want to see more of Steve. Yeah. Like there's so much I want to know.
Me too. I know. Charlotte has to keep the girls. They'll be a year older or so they'll be coming adults. Brady, maybe bring him in, and her name was Louisa or somewhere. So I forgot her name is. They'll bring maybe they'll get married, maybe they have a kid or something. Maybe she'll become a grandma. I mean, who knows?
Grandma. I feel like grandma would be the next step.
I think so too. And we have the other ladies, and we have Seema and her relationship and how that's going. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. And Anthony, him trying to be out there on his own. So there's a lot of possibilities for a season. They could do a season 2. They could easily do another one. But I think I heard there is one. I'm not sure, but when I hear definitively, we'll let you guys know for sure. I'll be here definitively. There is one. Again, thanks for watching us. You made this a nice hit show for me. Thank you on my network. I appreciate it. As more of you start to binge watch this, if you're watching this later, because I know a lot of times folks can't watch it all, but it's happening. Please come here and watch us. I've done every single episode this season. She came in halfway, but I did the first ones myself. She came in. Watch all of them. See what we're saying and join the conversation. Comment. Tell us what you think. Thanks to all the Sex and City groups and Just Like That groups out there. Let me post this in there. Thank you so much. And on Twitter and everybody. Lee May Heller, tell me they can find you.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking up trying to see if there was like any season 2 announcements. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk like the last 2 days, whether there is or not.
Yeah, I think there is.
But if you want to follow me for all of my hosting gigs and all the shows I'm producing or hosting, you can follow me at Emily May Heller. And yeah, this has been so much fun to drink wine and like talk Sex in the City and all my crazy stuff in my life.
I love it. I love it.
Sharing way too much about my life.
Yeah, I love it. Yes. Yes. Thank you, tell me. No, I love it. No, I do. And I'm James Lott Jr. Follow me. We're all James Lott Jr. is sold at James Lott Jr. on all media platforms. And so just stay tuned. You'll see us again. So we'll keep you posted. Just follow JLG Media and you'll know when we'll come back again. We'll see you next time.